Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another segment of It's Getting Real. Like so many of the other cases that I've spoken about on this channel, in my opinion, this is yet another one that could have been avoided. It makes no sense to me because we are in a society that has all these technological advances, yet we still see so many instances where victims of stalkers are not being protected. This could have been avoided. This should have been avoided. And I don't know what it is going to take in order for something to be done. Today's case takes place in Australia, but understand that this happens all around the world. And I have a problem with the fact that after all the tragedies that we've heard about, that nothing seems to be being done. At what point is it going to end? Let me be clear that Celeste doesn't even really know the man that killed her. She barely had interactions with him. And the one day, because of this particular event, the interaction that she has with him changes everything. Celeste Manno's life didn't deserve to be taken, and certainly not in such a brutal way. So go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we learn more about the chilling events that led to her unfortunate death. Celeste Manno was born on November 22nd, 1996, in Whittlestead, Victoria. That is a place in Australia. She was born to her father, Tony, and she was born to her mother, Aggie. Described as vibrant and an ambitious young woman, she showed she was special very early on in life. She was beautiful, as you can see by this picture. She was bright, loving, intelligent, and playful. It was said that she had an infectious laugh. Her friends say she had this way of lighting up a room with her bubbly, sweet nature. Celeste was known for her warm personality and for her kindness to others. It was said that she was the person that would go out of her way to make sure that others felt included. She loved animals and she loved her siblings. She had a passion for art. She had a creative spirit and she inspired those around her. Growing up in a close-knit family, Celeste had two siblings, one from her father's prior relationship and a younger brother. Her younger brother is 4 years younger than her, and they were extremely close. Extremely close. School was a place where Celeste excelled, with Celeste eventually attending Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, where she majored in psychology and criminology, with plans of later becoming a psychologist. As I said earlier, she was passionate about helping others, so it doesn't surprise me that she would pick a profession that would allow her to help others, that would allow her to put people at times before herself. That's just the person that she was. At her school, she excels academically, she forms lasting friendships, and she is loved by her peers and teachers. Not only is she attending school, but she is working. And in 2017, she begins to work at a call center. She does well there. She's a hard worker, and her colleagues appreciate her. Life is good. Life is going very great for her. That is until the day where she meets Luay Sako. Let me be clear. Celeste has had minimal to no interactions with this man, yet she unfortunately ended up on his radar. In April 2018, Seko is employed by the call center where she works, and he is there until 2019. So in 2019, Celeste is 23 years old. She is working at this call center, which he also happens to be working at. She is getting ready to enroll in her last year of school. June comes and Seko gets fired because he's underperforming. Celeste is the team lead, and as the team lead, when someone gets fired, she is responsible for walking them out. Now, me personally, I feel like in instances like these, it is a good idea if you have security on staff to help with that situation. I don't feel like an employee at the level that she was should have to walk him out. And I think that jobs need to consider this as well, because you're putting that person who goes out to take this person out in jeopardy as well. So she follows him to the front of the building. She wishes him well, extends her hand for a handshake, and he reaches out. And as he reaches out, he gives her a kiss on the cheek. Now, to me, this is beyond odd because she doesn't know him. She's barely had any interactions with him, and he could barely even really be called an acquaintance. And you feel comfortable enough kissing her on her cheek. That is odd to me. That is weird. So she goes home and she, is feeling a little uncomfortable about the situation. And she decides that what she needs to do is she needs to tell her mom what's going on, right? So she goes home. She lets her mother know what's happening. She tells her, look, I went ahead. I tried to give him a handshake and he kissed me on my cheek. And I felt myself becoming so embarrassed to the point where I probably turned red. So Aggie kind of laughs it off, thinking that, maybe, my daughter's being a little dramatic. Maybe she's exaggerating a little bit. That Celeste doesn't really need to be concerned about anything because this is just a situation where, she's beautiful and the guy likes her and probably has a crush on her. So he shot his shot, I guess, by kissing her on the cheek. But boy, oh boy, was she wrong. And here's the thing. Had it have been me, I unfortunately probably would have thought the same thing. I would have been like, oh, it's probably just a little crush there. But it's so much more than that. Because a week after being fired, he reaches out to her. He reaches out to her. This man that she rarely had any interactions with prior to the day that he gets terminated. And here he is finding her, locating her profile on Instagram, and DMing her. He sends her multiple direct messages to the point where she's concerned. Messages that say things like he loved her, that he couldn't function without her, that he couldn't eat or sleep. He wrote about how hard it was for him to even find a job because of how much she was on his mind. Excuse me, sir, that doesn't make sense. You don't know her. You didn't even have an interaction with her until you were leaving. Officials say that on one of well, I can't even say one because he did so many different ones. We'll say that in the DM section that came from him, that there were hundreds of DMs from this man. Celeste does not feel that way about him. And she tells him in the nicest way possible. She says, I appreciate you. I'm surprised to read it, but my feelings are only professional towards you, and she wishes him the best. You would think that that would be the end of it. You would hope that he would stop contacting her. At least that's what she thought, because she just wanted to be left alone. But he did not do that. Instead, he keeps sending her messages, and she in turn blocks him. And as a result of being blocked, he then creates a different account and starts messaging her from that one. Now, she eventually gets a boyfriend. His name is Chris. Chris says that he noticed, I guess because at some point they talked about it, that Luay moved so quickly that he would get blocked from one account, and within a matter of minutes, he would have DM'd her from a new account. The pattern would be he would message her, she would block him, he would create a new account, and then send her messages again. So now she is uncomfortable and she is losing sleep and she hates what is happening, but she's hoping that if she continues to ignore him, that he will get bored. But this goes on for months. Aggie is over it. Aggie is tired of the fact that he keeps on harassing her daughter. So Celeste has shown her these messages, and Aggie decides to message him on her own, asking him to leave her, well, not asking, demanding that he leave her child alone. I don't blame her. I probably would have done the same thing. But in this instance, it does nothing because he continues to message her, to the point where the messages become more frequent and they're darker in nature. The messages begin in the summer after he's terminated, we'll say about end of June, beginning of July. And by December, they're still going on. They go from poetry and professions of love to things that are more explicit in nature. They are sexual and they are angry and they are scary. So Aggie is beyond concern. She tells her daughter, this is getting dangerous. I think we need to report this to the authorities. But Celeste didn't want to. Celeste is a caring person, so caring that she is putting her concern for this man's mental state above her well-being. She's had enough class to know that something's off about this man, and she's not trying to rock the boat. She doesn't want anything bad to happen. He's harassing her, and yet she's worried about how a report may affect him. So 6 months of harassment. They go to the police station. They inform an officer of what's going on, and nothing happens. They're told to ignore him. So she does what she's supposed to do. She informs law enforcement, but she's brushed off. Now, there are other officers that later step in that say that the situation should have been handled differently. But here is the problem. If there's not something that is put in place to tell them what the protocol is, then what is going to be done to fix the situation? That's something that I want us to keep thinking about, because laws have been, well, not laws, guidelines have been put in place. Recommendations after this case have been made, and officials in Australia still are not abiding by them. We'll get into it. So, as I said, they brush her off. They don't look into it. They don't request copies of her phone. They don't even take down the man's name. They fail her. I understand that there is only so much they can do. But based on the way that Aggie describes the messages, I would have thought that they would have taken it more seriously. They should have taken it more seriously, because Celeste was already doing what she was supposed to do. She was already doing what they suggested, which is not commenting, which is blocking him. But they didn't feel like that was enough. The particular officer that they spoke to said, ignore him or get off the internet. She lets officers know she did all that, and she basically leaves with no help, and things just get worse. It gets to the point where he's actively stalking her. He's hanging outside her workplace, parking in the parking lot. He's believed to even have followed her. He's still reaching out, and he finds out where she lives. That situation with where she lives, I'm not quite sure about that because it said in court documentation that he admitted to locating the house on the internet, looking up the floor plan, and kind of like doing his own recognizance. Whereas Chris, her boyfriend, states that he drove by the house and basically found where her bedroom was. Either way, he did whatever he needed to do to make sure that he knew where she would be. So he finds out where she lives, and he's still messaging her, but it's getting worse because now he's saying things like, "Have you ever had a beast pounce on you?" Understand, he refers to himself as the beast. So he's saying, "Have you had a beast pounce on you?" He's talking about himself. "If you had my body for a day, what would you do with me?" Even going as far when she's not responding and he's frustrated to call her a slut. Friends and family notice changes in Celeste's demeanor, that she's anxious and fearful, and she's always looking over her shoulder. And who could blame her after being stalked for over a year? So she's stressed, but she does have a support system. And in July of 2020, Celeste and Aggie go back to the police station. But this time it's a little bit different because they run into an officer that actually knows how to do his job. They run into an officer that cares. Aggie lets them know they've been there previously and they've reported this. But of course, there's no documentation of it because nothing was done. The other officer didn't handle it correctly. The officer lets her know that something should have been done. And this goes back to me saying, this is why I have problems with some law enforcement. In my opinion, if you don't care about people, if you don't want to make sure that you are really protecting and serving, then get out. Get out. Leave it to people who care. Leave it to people who are willing to really do their job. So this time, no is not the answer. They explain all the things that have been going on. They talk about him sitting outside her job and the messages and all the DMs. One of them, it says, "I'm sorry, but I can't stop thinking about you. It's bordering on OCD. I'm totally infatuated with you, captivated and fascinated by you. You're all I think about. The obsession with you," I believe this was actually this one that I'm reading now, was shortly before she passed. "This obsession with you, which is a crush, is an addictive and destructive feeling that is interfering with my ability to concentrate, deal with others, and go about my daily routine." The officer has read enough, has seen enough, actually took the time to look at the evidence that they were presented, and a report is filed. He tells them the steps that they need to take. He suggests that they get an intervention order. In many states, like over here in the United States, I believe it's called a restraining order. I looked it up, and an intervention order says that orders help to protect your family and you if you're a victim of abuse. Abuse can include behavior which physically injures or is intended to injure you or your family members, causes you emotional or psychological harm. In this case, he already definitely was doing the psychological thing. And as a result, she is granted this intervention order. For the first time, officers are writing down his name. They're taking notes. They go to court in July. They're granted a personal safety intervention order, which is protecting or is supposed to protect Celeste. But let's be clear, because we're going to keep it all the way real here. A lot of us know that those papers do not prevent people from still seeking you out. Those papers are just papers. But what those papers are designed to do is that if they breach the order, then you're supposed to pick them up and you arrest them, right? You're supposed to take them off the street so that you protect the people that they're stalking. At some point, he's questioned, He admits to sending various messages from different accounts. But after he got that order, he claims that he no longer was interested in her. So he's served on July 8th, told he can no longer have contact with her. Aggie is nervous because Aggie, at her core, knows that this is just a piece of paper, but it works for a brief moment. She isn't contacted by him for a few weeks, which is great for her. But it doesn't last long because he's back in August and he's contacting her again. He ends up sending her a message on IG in August with a link. The link takes her to a 3-page letter, a letter that actually pleads that she stop ruining his life. The gall of him doing that when it's clear that he is the one that is ruining her life and that he actually did ruin it. He ended it. That's a year of her constantly looking over her shoulder because you won't leave her the hell alone. A year of her not feeling safe, and you got the nerve to say she's ruining your life. She reads the letter, and once again, with all the begging and the pleading and all those other things, she feels bad for this guy. She's even thinking about dropping the order. Aggie reads it, and Aggie's like, oh no, we're not about to not go through with this. It's staying. And as she reads it, she realizes that he's breached the order, which provides proof to the police that he breached it. So they let the police know. Sako is charged and he disappears again. Understand he's charged, but he's not arrested. He doesn't stay in jail. He's not locked up. There's nothing that says that he had to do any time for breaching it, anything like that. Now, the sad thing is that they think that it's over, but it's not, because nothing was done. So she's thinking everything's okay, but this 35-year-old man is still stalking this 23-year-old girl. While all this is going on, Celeste is trying to move on with her life. Over the time that she had been working at the job, she gets very close to this man right here that you see on the screen. I got this picture from 60 Minutes. She is excited to be with him. His name is Chris. They have been out on several dates. This is their last date. They take a picture, and Celeste is so excited. Chris says that she could not wait to upload the picture, and she even joked around with him, telling him that she liked the picture so much that she feels like he needs to make it his profile picture, or she's going to make it her profile picture. Just goes to show you the type of dynamic that they had. So the image is on social media, and she doesn't know this, but Sako sees it and he gets pissed off. And as I said, he knows where her house is and he knows where her bedroom is located. The picture is posted on November 15th, and by December 16th, she is unalived. Terrible. Terrible. He really, really had a plan. And it's sad because she didn't even have a chance. She didn't even see it coming towards her. She had no clue that this man was going to do what he did. So it's November 15th, late at night. Celeste and her mother are home. They're talking about, her upcoming birthday and what the plans are and things of that nature. Celeste is about to go to bed. Aggie tells her daughter she loves her, and she heads to bed. Shortly before 4 a.m., Celeste is in her bed and she is sleeping. And this fool decides to climb a fence. He has his hammer and knife with him. He uses the hammer to break the bedroom window. He gets in the window. He knows where all this is because, as I said, he stalked her. He looked it up. He saw the plans. He enters the home with the knife, and in a brutal, horrifying way, he attacks her. Y'all, it's bad. He stabs Celeste 23 times, leaving her with no chance to defend herself. He ends up stabbing her in the heart, and that is what is believed to have killed her. He then flees. Aggie is awoken by the shattering of glass because she says it was loud. And she was confused at first by that glass. She thought maybe it was a dream. But then she heard her daughter gasping and struggling. So she jumps out of her bed, runs into her daughter's room, not even realizing that she's stepping on broken glass. She enters her room, trying to pull her daughter out of the bed, and she's seeing that her daughter is unresponsive. She's screaming, telling her daughter not to leave. She's trying to help her baby. As that's going on in the house, Sako is seen on camera leaving. Officers and paramedics arrive. Aggie at this point still does not realize what's happening. I'm not sure how they knew to come there. I don't know if a call to 911 was made or what, but this is what the story has been told. It wasn't until first responders told her to stop because they found a knife that she realized that this was a crime scene and that her child was murdered. And she is heard saying, "What? Oh my God, he killed her." That's when she tells the officers that she knows who did it, that her daughter has been stalked. Now this man had the nerve to come into the home and take away this beautiful girl. He took her away, knowing that her mother was in there. The gall. According to cameras in the neighborhood, it is determined that between the time that he left his vehicle and he went into that house and came back out, that it was less than 3 minutes. Tell me that that wasn't something that he planned. As he leaves, he gets rid of his phone. He flees the scene and he turns himself into the police. When he gets to the police, he asks them to please, just please don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. The voices in my head told me to do it. Because he wants to make sure that he can claim that he was mentally incapacitated, impaired, I don't know, that something was going on with his mind at the time. I want you to remember that he did this because you're so distraught, but you purchased the knife after being served. You're so distraught mentally, but you sought her out. You stalked her. You took the time to come to her house and break in. You knew what to bring. You brought more than one weapon because you wanted to ensure that you got in that house. So you being mentally impaired doesn't work for me. You knew better. His funeral, oh, it's not his. Oh, I wish it was his. Her funeral was held days after what would have been her 24th birthday. And the fight for justice, in my opinion, begins. Y'all, this is so sad. Because he is trying really hard to be found unfit to stand trial. It takes years before this case goes to court because of delays. He goes from not guilty to guilty. He keeps changing his plea. And when it gets to court, there is no jury because he's pleading guilty. But the thing is, they have to figure out how many years he's going to get. So they're at the Supreme Court. And the defense, in my opinion, is really trying to invoke sympathy for Sako. Understand that he at one point was representing himself because he fired counsel. I hate the way that they always try to make you want to feel sorry for the perpetrator of the crime. Like we're supposed to feel bad for this piece of crap that decided to take another life. You want me to feel sorry for him, but I will never. His stalking obsession was mentioned, and it said that part of this was because he was untreated due to his mental illness. My thoughts on that is if you're not willing to treat your mental illness, then you need to be locked up because you're a danger to yourself and to the community. He initially blames police for what happened, claiming that he had suffered psychosis. So, as I said, he pleads guilty to murder, later tells lawyers he wants to reverse the plea. He has multiple legal teams because he's firing people left and right. Case finally goes to court. In court, it is said that Sako was born in 1984 in Iraq to Christian parents, that they were granted a humanitarian visa, and he arrived in Australia in 1992. My opinion, they should have left his butt in Iraq. And I'm not saying that because I have a thing against foreigners. If you know, my family are all foreigners. My point is that with the thing that happened with him, I can't help but wonder what Celeste would have become had he never entered Australia. But then again, it probably would have happened there because it seems like he has a problem. At least that's what forensic psychiatrist Dr. Darji claimed. He said that Sako had an extreme personality disorder, severe depression, and body dysmorphia. That he was not a psychopath, but his personality disorder was the most extreme that he had witnessed in his career. He said he has a profound inability to see things from other people's perspective. In court, Sako conducted his own cross examination of the pathologist who carried out the autopsy. And he took issue with some of the things that were in there, talking about how, it says that I ran to the murder scene, but I only walked briskly. Or I don't believe that I stabbed her 23 times. It was only two. Understand he's saying all of this while her family is in the courtroom and listening to this. At times, while in court, his body trembled. He tapped his hands, his hands together. He moved his leg up and down. He had a big outburst when Aggie was yelling at him. He thumped the side of his head with an open palm. Like he was doing a lot of things to make it seem like something was going on here. But a lot of it, in my opinion, was an act. Dr. Darji said that his untreated medical conditions definitely would have contributed to his stalking and murder of Celeste, but it had not reached a level where he was unable to control his actions, meaning you can't complain. You can, I promise y'all I could talk. You can't lie and say that this happened because you didn't know any better, because you can control it, is what he was basically saying. He says he knew it was wrong, but his ability to appreciate the wrong and right thing was significantly impacted. So, midway through this case, he decides to reinstate Tim Marsh as his attorney during the court hearing. What precedes is intense. His serious personality disorder was taken by the judge into consideration, which sparked outrage among Celeste's family and supporters who felt like his mental health issues should not mitigate the severity of his actions. I agree. In the aftermath of her death, her family and her friends were devastated. They spoke about the need for better protection for victims of stalking and domestic violence and all these other things. And yet, here we are years later, and it seems like it's just not landing. So, on the day of sentencing, dozens of Celeste's family and friends fill the courtroom, most dressed in black. The family brought a glowing blue urn into the courtroom, which was placed in front of Aggie and her son, Alessandro. That's the brother that I showed you in the pictures earlier, and her father, Tony. They are given the opportunity to give censored impact statements. And I'm saying censored because, according to Aggie, they had to submit their statements prior to this, and a lot of the things that they wrote down were taken out. They were told that they can't say them in court. Not sure why. But this is what her mother could say. The only other person I hate more than you is me. He not only murdered my sweetie, but he did it under my watch. He destroyed my self-worth and any notion of being a good mom. He's left me with a lifetime of self-loathing and guilt and remorse. I cannot begin to imagine how that mother feels, how Aggie feels knowing that he did this. If you watch the clip when she's telling the story, and I'm going to leave some of where I got my information from on YouTube with 60 Minutes Australia, where you can tell as she's telling the story of that night that the emotions are still very, very raw there. That it's very much so something that she probably pictures in her head over and over again. Family members shed tears at the end of the 45-minute sentence when the judge revealed that she would not be handing down a life sentence. Instead, under Victorian law, on February 29th of 2004, Justice Diction, first name Jane, sentences Sako to 36 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 2015. He has no reaction to his sentence. Just goes to show you how screwed up everyone's system is, that this man stalked this girl, planned on unaliving her, and all he gets is 36 years with the possibility of parole. He doesn't have to get life. The doctor testified that he was dangerous to women, even as going as far as to say that should any female guards show him the slightest bit of kindness, that he might try to do the same thing with them. He plans this murder, and you give him 36 years. It's insulting on so many levels. Many believe that he should have received a life sentence considering the brutality of the crime and the impact that he had on Celeste's family. Outside the court, Aggie told reporters she was devastated by the sentence. She visibly shook as she spoke of Sako's crime and bashed the 36-year sentence, saying, "I don't believe in parole. I don't believe in releasing murderers to murder again. At this point, I can only pray that the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Court of Appeal recognize that true justice in this case demands a life sentence. That little trust that I had left in this system has been completely destroyed by today's outcome." Aggie called on the government to introduce electronic monitoring to protect future potential victims from harm. And I think that this is something that needs to be done across the board because this is happening too often. She said this was in the middle of the night in our home. We did not know him. Without monitoring someone like this, you can't prevent what happened to Celeste. Now, since this has happened, the government developed, or I should say, yeah, we'll say government, developed something called SASH, Screening Assessment for Stalking and Harassment, but all stations are not utilizing it. Aggie's mom says none of them are. It's a list of questions officers should ask victims when they first go to police, and it's designed to help identify high risk stalking cases. But as of a year ago, nothing has really been put in place. 3 years ago, the Victorian Law Reform Commission tabled a report calling for clearer stalking laws amid dozens of recommendations, 46 to be exact. And I left that in the link because in that document, they're telling you how to handle this. The case raised questions about the adequacy of the legal system in protecting victims of stalking and the challenges faced by those trying to escape abusive relationships. Celeste Manno was more than just a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, and a friend. Yet her life, though tragically cut short, serves as a powerful reminder of the need for awareness and action against stalking and domestic violence. I want to remind you all that stalking can take forms in various ways, and recognizing warning signs early can be crucial for your safety. Common warning signs that you should be aware of is unwanted communication. That's frequent calls, texts, emails, social media messages, especially if they are aggressive or abusive in nature. Following or surveillance. Being followed or having the feeling of being watched, whether in person or through social media platforms. Gathering personal information. The stalker may know personal details about you that you have not shared with them, indicating that they are monitoring you closely. Invasive behavior, showing up unexpectedly at your home, your workplace, frequenting places that you go to, even though you've expressed desire for them to stop. There's gifts, sending unwanted gifts or items that may be intended to manipulate or create a sense of obligation. There's threats and intimidation. There's jealousy. There's vandalism of property. There's disruption of daily life, which means interfering with your daily activities, such as showing up at your job or disrupting your routine, which may cause you distress. There's manipulation of people that you know with your friends and your family. There's changes in behavior. Someone suddenly becomes overly persistent or aggressive. If you or someone you know is experiencing these warning signs, it is important to take them seriously. Seeking help from friends, family, or law enforcement can be crucial in ensuring safety. Remember, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it is important to take action. Celeste's family is still fighting for tougher laws. They are trying to prevent this from happening to another family. So let's all do our part. I have left the link to a petition. Even though we are not in Australia for some of us, look at the link. Read up on the thing. Sign it if you can. Let's see what we can do to at least get this ball rolling. Thank you for joining me in today's episode of It's Getting Real. If you found this story impactful, please share it with others. And remember to subscribe for more. This is just a sad story because it shouldn't have ever happened. And I just hope that Celeste continues to rest and that her family does find some justice for Celeste. Until next time, peace.